Well, Jason.
Awesome.
We decided this week to just burn all the bridges.
Mm-hmm.
We're just lighting it on fire.
Clicks and views,
We got an Angry Store Diaries follow up.
Oh yes, okay.
Follow it up. We're following up our video.
Yeah, so good, we got to double dip.
So we got to double down here.
Yeah.
And I was chatting with a buddy of ours who also runs a couple of hobby stores, and we were kind of chatting because like it's funny with Games Workshop. They're this like dartboard of hate or whatever, right? So like. Especially online, right? Like you have all this toxicity. Like when you're the big guy in any industry, like you soak damage for everybody, right?
Yep.
You're like the convenient villain, right?
Yep.
It's like at the end of Dark Knight, he's like, I could be the bad guy.
Yeah.
I'll do it for you.
I'll do it for you. Yeah. Yeah.
They need someone to hate and chase or whatever. Okay. Mm-hmm. Cool. So if you're running a shop, this is kind of where it gets a little spicy. In our experience, based on other shops we've had experience with it in the past, and just kind of applying our own experience with Games Workshop, and talking to our friends who also run stores, it's possible. I'm just going to put it out there that your local game store might be a liar or lying to you. Now, hear me out. Obviously, every small business deserves the benefit of the doubt. But if you mismanage your own orders, or you wanted to get 10 of something and they could only give you 8, but you took money for 10, even though you knew 3 weeks ahead of time that you weren't going to get 10, but you still took the money. There's a convenient, let's just say, local shops have a very convenient excuse that everyone will basically believe. Which is basically it's Games Workshop's fault. They're awful, and they screwed me over.
Yeah. I mean,
Jay's like, I don't want to talk.
We're really tripling, quadrupling down on how much we love Games Workshop.
No, it's not that.
Like,
it's not that.
They can do nothing wrong. Ever.
I don't receive weekly payments from them in my bank account.
No,
to say these things.
We don't get free books or models. No, but I feel you for sure. I think the only reason Chris and I even would talk about this is because it's just the experience. Like 10 years here coming up very shortly, plus the years before that at GW, and just being in and around the hobby stores for so long, is you kind of just get to meet the different personalities. And something to keep in mind is like, and we're not perfect either. But yeah, FLGS are run by like pretty regular people who frankly often don't even have like, I don't want to say the right skills, but maybe they don't have the different, maybe they haven't worked in other professional careers, or they're new to retail, or they're just like flying by the seat of their pants. Let's be honest, most of us are. And, there's a lot of things that occur. There's always like little problems, and whether it's a Games Workshop problem or a distributor, or you didn't get the allocation that you thought you were going to get. These things happen. And so you are often put in positions, myself included, this happens, where, someone's like, where's this thing? What's going on with this? And you're like, look, I don't have it, or I can't get it. Or, I try and be as blunt as I can with people every time I can. There's always a little bit of like, stalling for time if I know that something it is coming, because someone's being impatient, or they've waited a while and it hasn't arrived. Like, this does happen. But look, yeah, if something this does happen, like where a GW order is just not going to make it on time. It's especially critical on a new release. It's painful when something new and hot's supposed to be in so that I can put it on the shelf this coming Saturday and it didn't arrive. It's Friday afternoon. It's not here. Yeah, I have to disappoint people. But I always found just being brutally blunt and honest is the best way. But look, some people aren't, I don't know, maybe they don't have the right words or the attitude to deal with that. And they'll just make something up, and they'll just basically say, oh, I got effed by GW this week again or something.
Right.
And I know we had a lot of comments that, quite a few were like, saying, yeah, my FLGS is always having a hard time, and yeah, GW are terrible. It's always terrible. Orders are always terrible. And and I don't know. I just find it hard to believe that it's like week after week after week. Yeah, sometimes there are problems. Don't get me wrong, but again, with whether it's GW or any of the distributors we work with, I've never seen it like that bad in any for any of the games or competitors. Where it's like week after week after week. So sometimes you get a not a very good sales rep, but usually you can complain enough.
Well, let's say there's agency there. Right? Like we've escalated over things to a point where like. Especially with other distributors, like I want a different salesperson. Like you're a customer, right?
Look, and if your FLGS guy or lady or whoever's running it can't figure that out, that's on them.
That's definitely on them.
Like if I don't care who they're dealing with, if they can't overcome that problem, and their de facto thing is to just spew to the customers, oh, I didn't do anything wrong. It's all this evil company or whatever, or this crappy company, like. They're probably lying. I'm just gonna say they're probably lying to you.
Well, they're probably being disingenuous, right? There's also the element of like they have like it's a relationship too. Like people forget that. Like you're a customer, but it's also a relationship. And to say that like Games Workshop, especially the trade department, doesn't have like notes on your file about how you behave and how you've acted, like especially on the shop we covered like last week. They've been in business for like decades, and it sounds like that's been a bit of a problem account probably. For
the thing too is if you're an account like this person that spent, let's say, I don't know, they claim they put out, we ordered 12,000 worth or something. It's a pretty substantial weekly order if it's even or just a new release order. So if they're spending whatever it is, let's say. 50 weeks, 52 weeks. Let's say they're spending 150,000 a year on just 40K or something, or Games Workshop products every year. Like they are going to pay attention to you. They're not going to ignore you. Like they're going to like that is like a healthy, good volume account. They want those dollars. They're not going to ignore that. They're not going to treat that they're not going to give it to the worst sales rep.
No,
they are not doing that. Like if you're a new or trainee or a less rated internally sales rep, you are not getting key accounts. Like it's not how it works. No. Like they're gonna give it to their veteran guy who makes sure to take care of these things, who can handle those calls and whatever.
Which makes you feel like some of the stuff is like mismanagement or like maybe requests that just aren't like. I can imagine some accounts over the last couple of years have probably had a hard time swallowing the new way things are being done.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Because it's not how it used to be. It's changed massively.
Yes.
And a lot of those changes, like just being completely frank and fair, benefit Games Workshop.
Yeah.
It's massive. It's like putting things in much earlier in terms of like your numbers before you're allowed to take pre-orders for them. So there's a lot more onus on the person running the business to have a really good pulse on what they need and want for the shop. And you can get really hung up on like being like, that's not fair. That's okay. Like, why are they doing this? It's like, but yeah, they made that decision. Right.
Yeah. And like for context a little bit, just like pre-pandemic, it was very like, you just called, they called you on a Monday or Tuesday and you're like, I want these things. And they're like, sure.
And it came that week.
And it came before the end of the week, like, within 2 days or something. And that included new releases and whatever. There wasn't this rolling window.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, I don't know, maybe they had like, shadow caps internally on items or things. But I think if stores wanted more, they could. And they could probably get those extra items quickly because the supply chain was just different at the time. But now since then, they've muddled through and they've tried a few systems that didn't work and they've settled on one that I think is as best as it can be.
I mean, is it perfect? No. It could be better for sure. But ultimately, like if it means I get the stuff that I want like pretty consistently, the numbers that I want consistently, which has been the way it's been for us, at least for almost a year we've been using the new system. Mm-hmm. There's been a couple blips along the way. Then I think overall it's a good change.
And I know, I think I did see a few people chime in, and I think we forgot to mention this, because there's always that sentiment that like, oh, GW is just making these things difficult to to penalize the FLGS to make their own shops more desirable. They have some things that make their own shops a little more desirable. Whether it's the big one is that their web terminal that you use in a Warhammer store does get priority.
It line jumps. There's no queue.
I think it's open a little 5-10 minutes earlier than the regular time. So if you're ever trying to get that the new Empire Captain or something in resin, you probably should go to your local GW if you want to really get it. But that's a small section of things. It doesn't even really affect us. But often, though, the Games Workshops, and I can tell you, they get even less of that hot item that you think the FLGS is getting stiffed on. And what that tells me is that it's just frankly like a capacity. They just don't make enough of some of these things. And I don't know if it's a combination of big conservative numbers on their end based on projections, or just physically not having the capacity. I know that's a real thing. They haven't,
Yeah, I know part of it is like an agency thing. Like you essentially, like we both worked in Games Workshop stores when we could place our own orders and decide on how many things we wanted.
Yes.
That has long been taken out of their hands.
I
think for largely good reasons.
Warhammer store manager has no choice.
They don't have any choice. Yeah. They get what they get, and a lot of it's all data-driven decisions essentially, right? So they have these big spreadsheets. They're running the numbers. They know what their best sellers are. They know what kits don't sell very well. I would argue that sometimes the data can tell you something that's not. Sometimes the data can lead you in a way that doesn't make sense based on. So for example, if you have the wrong inputs. So I remember this famous one, which was the Carriage on Overlord release for the first time, right?
Yes.
And they were determining numbers for that release based on dwarf sales
in your local
in your shop.
Yeah.
The problem with that was there were no dwarf kits to buy. So that's
you haven't sold any dwarves, and you're like, I know, you didn't give me any.
I didn't have any, and also they weren't exciting to buy, even if we had them
because they're older.
What has that got to do with a brand new army that's coming out? So sometimes they don't get it wrong, but I think overall the when Games Workshop tells me something's a bestseller, I'm like, yeah, okay. I mean, there's data there. I believe them, right? And largely that's panned out. We've never. In the history of our store, expanding our selection to basically include everything we can order, I've never felt disappointed by that decision.
Yeah, and the data can only go so far. If I ran the bestseller report in the store, the conclusion I would draw is that I should only sell Black Primer and that's it, and I shouldn't sell anything else in the whole store. It'd just be shelves of Black Primer cans.
I do like to hoard Black Primer.
Yeah.
You had to unpack quite a few cans.
Oh my god, yeah. So if you need Black Primer, we just received 30 or 6 or 70 cans.
I was like, it's back in stock. Order all of it.
Cans of it. Yeah,
we're taking all of it. Yeah.
Yeah, we're taking all of it. Sorry. No, but I like I said, I've just back to the topic at hand. Unfortunately, I think there just is not. And again, it's not all the store owners, but or people or managers or whatever. But I always pause in caution when I get one of these really fiery posts from a store that's dropping a product line or upset with a company. We weren't happy with the way Malifaux kind of exited the Canadian market. But I don't know. I'm not writing a whole store diary thing.
No, I didn't say anything public. I said this before in our video. Even though I was relentlessly attacked by the 4 Malifaux people that played, that I was defending it to the last minute. I wrote impassioned emails to the local distributors, the people there, to put on up high. I wrote basically an essay, point by point, why it was a good decision to keep the product line in, and I spoke to Weird about it as well, and ultimately, I have very little power, so that didn't go very far. But but
you weren't blaming, attacking the distributor or whatever.
I wasn't.
Guys, I don't like this decision or whatever, and that's it.
But I think too. I think we often forget that people running stores, including us. I'm going to say 98% of us did not get into the hobby store business for financial reasons.
A couple guys, the guys that are starting to run superstores and
so 98%. There's a couple of guys that are killing it.
Yeah.
Good for them, man.
Good for them.
God bless.
Yeah.
Someone should make $1 in this business.
Someone should.
So what's the other reason you're in it then? Okay, it's obviously you care about the stuff you're selling, right?
Yeah.
And with that comes a certain level of, like, with passion comes that fieriness, right? And I think that's where that kind of comes from, I think. Where you have these, people running shops that are people. They're humans. They're hobbyists. They care about things. And when you love the product that you're selling and things change and whatever, we saw it time and time again when we worked for Games Workshop where a person couldn't change their behavior, so they had to get fired or let go because they were too attached to the product and they couldn't understand a business decision, right? It's no different for people running stores. They see business changes happen, and ultimately, whether you like those changes or not, you have a job to do. And hey, I fully appreciate and understand if you decide to cut a range for business reasons, but to do it for emotional reasons, I think is when it's like
yeah. Oh man, if it was for emotional reasons, I'd be picking up and dropping Warhammer every other year, whatever. Like whether it's the current landscape of the rules management or how the things are reboxed or priced, you have to also look at I have X dollars on the wall. I have still lots of people coming and buying it. Like I have to either deal with it or find a way around or just stop and think about it. And this kind of comes back to a little bit of my original point is I feel like sometimes some of the business owners, and you could say this across not just hobby stores but any small business, is there just is a lack of professionalism. And maybe it's because they didn't work in that field before or they didn't get correct training in it. Like there is a certain, a small micro example happens here at the store all the time. Someone emails or drops some kind of comment or question that just makes no sense, and you want to just be like, oh, this person's an idiot. You just want to your reflex is to just be like, oh, they're just wrong on so many ways, and you have to really step back and be like, okay, what am I going to gain from nothing? Okay, let's regroup. Let's spend a minute.
And that's hard.
It's hard. It's hard.
We both fallen into that before.
It's hard. I'll get whatever. It's sometimes it's.
Because people can
product question or they received an order and I don't know what, or lately there was unfortunate with there's been a big national strike here with the postal service, and a lot of people were, where's my was the Seinfeld, where's the top of my muffin or whatever, they're just, where's my box? And
people are just like a couple of people are just nasty about
they're just nasty about it, because the tracking wasn't, we found other solutions and they've been working just fine, but it's not the same, right? They'll talk about a change, right? Tracking wasn't as good, things took a little longer. And you get some of these emails and you're sitting there at 10 p.m. You're like, I want to kill this person. You're so annoyed that they're having a problem with this because you did your job. You packed the box. You got it out on time. Everything's been good, and they're gonna get their box what they got anyway. And then you have to stop, regroup, and be like, okay, this is just humans dealing with humans, and they also don't know the details like you know them, and vice versa. So you have to stop and be like, hey, look. Right. This is what's going on. Don't worry. And in the professional world, that's a skill you have to learn. You have to learn how to convey messages to people and when to stop and be like I've had this too. I've had someone. I've had over the years. Maybe someone wants a certain product, and you're like, I don't know. The distributor says we're gonna get it sometime later, and and then they keep checking. But is it here yet? And at some point, I'll be like, look, I don't. No, I don't have it's probably never going to make it. I don't know. Do you want your money back? Do you want whatever? You just have to have that blunt cut off. Or someone will just ask me about something I don't say, oh yeah, maybe. I just say, probably not. I just try and not waste their time if I can, as much as I can, right? So
right.
And but we also have methods in house here that we try to really, especially when it's a hot starter box or something, we really take a lot of details, make sure to call people, check back, swing around, if things a couple days away, be like, look, are you sure you're getting this or not? Making sure the numbers, rechecking, recalculating, and being really careful. I think actually the last little anecdote, the hardest one actually was probably that AOS 3 launch with Dominion. That was a difficult thing. Basically, Games Workshop promised a certain amount, and then they said we're going to give you half and half later.
Yeah.
And so I had to make a difficult call. I had to like go through my list, go in like descending order from like literally I literally wrote down like when someone bought the box, date and time, so that I could go in a fair order. Because it was first come, first serve. And I could I drew a line and I reached the person after it. I'm like, hey, sorry, you're not going to get your box this Saturday. And you just have to be like, and I didn't go like, oh, it's like, let's just dunk on GW hard and just be like, these are the facts, right? For whatever reason.
Which is ironic because Monday morning, our second wave shipped or whatever.
They sent it out anyway, that's a whole nother
That was a whole
thing.
different story.
Yeah. So maybe the FLGS guy's just crazy. I don't know. He's probably going to attack us now. They're probably going to send cruise missiles.
I think it's important also to say just like a hobby store has some bad customers, you're just going to have them, right? Games Workshop probably has some too, right? With some of their trades, we talk to our trade guy occasionally, and I've known the guy for years, so we share stories back and forth a little bit, right? And it's not there's going to be clients you have that you're like, oh, I have to call this guy.
Oh yeah.
You're like, oh god, I want to call this guy, right? They're always everything's always a problem, right? And let's be real, some of these accounts don't follow the rules really well. They break the rules. Maybe they break the rules a little too often.
Yeah.
And maybe because of that, there's consequences, and then maybe decisions like this are more about saving face than they are about
100% accounts probably have a little color band, green, yellow, red, guaranteed.
Yeah, I mean that seems like a good way to do it.
I mean, literally, my previous career, we did IT support for a software company, and we had clients that use the software, and I would look, first thing you do, they call up with a problem. You're like, I'm going to check out what's happening. We load up their account, and there'll be a big red delinquent didn't pay their bill, or da-da-da, or they're off, they've broken the rules,
right?
And then you're just like, okay, yeah, while you're sitting on the screen, you're like, okay, hang on a second, okay? And then you're like doing some things, checking some more things, asking a question to your superior maybe, and then you come back and you're like, hey, yeah, listen, I'd love to help you, but you owe us money or whatever, or something, right? Yeah. And you're like, hey, it says you're off support, so I can't really help you. And they're like, oh God, right? They're God. So yeah, that's a thing. I guarantee you that's a thing. Yeah.
There isn't just this big evil blob that that exists. This primordial being.
Look, again, I'll fully admit we do this happens at the store. Look, if there's customers that are prickly or really hard to deal with, again, they're not going to get as much time of the day as the person who is always good. I'm not talking about just big spender. I'm just talking about someone who's just
kind and patient,
and I have all the time in the world courtesy, for those people. Yeah.
I mean, it's human at the end of the day. Yes. You can't keep doing this job every day if you give the negative people your time and energy, because they'll suck the life out of you. And the only reason I know that is because I've been doing this for freaking 20 years.
Yeah.
And I've been down those roads, and I know where they lead, right? So it's. You have to pick and choose your battles. You have to conserve your energy for where you need it. It's all about kind of being able to do this again tomorrow. And if you kind of can be a bit more like you said, steady and kind of even keeled about it, and you'll kind of be able to stay in this industry longer.
Yeah. I
mean, we'll end on this because we're already in garbage time here. But there's this kind of image of the old hobby store guy who's just been at it for 20, 25, 30 years, and he's just this crusty, it's definitely gonna be Jay, who's just you come in the shop, he's he kind of grunts or whatever when you come in, stuff's just you can just look at the store and just know this guy's just doing this because he has to still.
Yeah.
And we all, everybody's
he owns the building. He doesn't want to even look at his wife. She doesn't want to look at him.
It's
his future Timmy. He's this
Timmy now. Oh man, Timmy stayed married that long? There's something.
Well, only because he can hide in his own store.
Timmy's a successful entrepreneur too.
Wow, I don't know.
And I don't know where I was going. Well, we all kind of know, we can kind of people running shops and own businesses know that meme.
Yeah.
because it's based on real things.
It's based on real things. Yeah.
So like we're I don't know, at least us, we're always like, wow, we don't really want to become that person. So we're always kind of like thinking about that a little bit, right? Like
we are always trying
not to become
things.
old man yells at store. Cloud store.
Yeah. No, that's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
But,
it's not easy. But.
Well, thank you guys for watching another video, and we do these a couple times a week. If you're new to this, if you're catching this for the first time, and you can support us by buying things from our shop if you can. If you're in Canada or if you're outside Canada, just shoot us an email. And otherwise, you can go on Patreon. I'm getting butchered in the comments for how I say that.
Oh, yeah.
And you can support us there as well, which we really appreciate. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, bye.